Working with a forgiveness coach has allowed me to understand why I'm afraid of those, what I assume looks like rest. When I think rest, I think, oh gosh, here I am being lazy.
Hi, I'm Lori Hardy, and I help business owners go from frustration to ease when it comes to podcasting. If you're looking to boost your credibility and grow your business but feel overwhelmed by the process, I've got you covered. With over 30 years of experience in top radio markets, I know how to make your voice heard. My 7-day Podcast Pro program helps you move from scattered and unsure to confidently launching and maintaining a podcast that connects with your audience, builds your legacy. It's done with ease and minimal time. Plus, I'll share insider tips to help you rank in the top 5%.
Has your life, your dreams been interrupted? Good news. It is possible to reinvent our lives. People are doing it every day, and some are brave enough to share the struggles, disappointments, and challenges. If you are looking for a new beginning, a do-over, or to rediscover your passion, maybe even find a new one, then grab a cup of coffee and let's talk. Interrupted, Act 2, Reinventing Your Legacy, with your host, Coach Lori.
Wonderful Morrison is back with us, and her podcast has changed a little since the last time. And what I love about it is that you didn't start over. You just did an iteration. You just made a shift and you kept going. And your podcast is called Her Truth Revealed. And the tagline is
Unraveling Our Midlife Era.
And since we talked last, you have kind of gone through this new, I like to say transformation, but it's really an iteration. As we were talking earlier, it's like we don't just change and we're done. We keep growing, we keep iterating, we keep doing a new thing as we learn. Tell us about what has happened and what has brought you to this new place.
Oh my gosh. So since we were last on a microphone together, I took time off from life itself. You were the last interview I did where I was in Washington State, and I have grandchildren across the country in South Carolina, currently in Tennessee. And after that interview, I decided I was going to take a break from my business. And at the time, I had a coaching business that supported entrepreneurs through a coaching program. I took time off and I was like, oh, I'm going to be gone for a month. I had been in the latter, deeper part of my excavation of my forgiveness work with my forgiveness coach. So I just needed time to not be so distracted and busy. I just needed time to be with myself in an environment that was very giving, which is grandchildren, little humans. They give so much life and love without any limitations or expectations. So I chose to take a vacation with my grandchildren. And my husband, my poor husband, sweet, sweet husband, was like, okay, I can handle being away for a month, because he stayed in Washington. But what started as a month-long experience ended up being the entire end of the year of 2024. I left Washington at the end of July and came back to Washington in January. Yes, and that wasn't expected. My goal was I was just going to do a, what do they call it? A sabbatical. I was going to do a sabbatical and journal and be with myself, laugh with my grandchildren, but it went so much deeper than that. I did these things, and I apologize for my crass language here, but I started doing this thing called Shut the Mornings, where I'm a doer. I'm a Gen X. I was born in the 70s. I was shaped by the 80s. I was awakened in the 90s. So I'm a doer. And I find a lot of value in achievement and goals. And I've been a business owner my entire adult life. So I'm a go-getter. I don't know what it is to wake up and not have a task list that I need to accomplish until then. These shut the mornings were, I did nothing. I didn't write a list. I didn't plan. I just sat until I could be with myself, which sounds like, hello, yogis do it, monks do it. It's been this language in the last few years since COVID, self-care. I don't know about you, but I understood self-care as like pedicures, manicures. I didn't think self-care was being still and being quiet and listening to myself or listening to nothing and just figuring myself out. So the first couple of weeks were really, really hard. Actually, the first month was kind of chaos because I was thinking so much. And then by the end of that first month, I finally could hear. I was told a long time ago that prayer is in asking, but we never take the time to listen for an answer, which is what meditation is. And I've always known what meditation is, but I didn't like logically, I understand the concept and I know how to do it, but I didn't know there's a purpose in it to listen. So that's what I did. I listened, just kept listening until it was time to come back to, I don't want to say reality because it's all a reality. It's just a reality that I was in until I came back to Washington. And then I still wasn't into getting my business going. I was just going to stick to my podcast. That's where the Truth Revealed came out because my initial podcast was The Evolution of the Fempreneur, which was talking to women in business and tips and tricks and the trade. And when this happened, and then also I was experiencing my midlife experience. I just turned 50. I was going through menopause. It's still going through menopause and all of the things going through my excavation of self. I realized I was like, man, what is my truth? Who am I? Who am I without any titles, without any achievements, without any desire to chase anything down? Who am I? And that's when the truth came out. And what it really came down to, I believe that when women hit midlife, it's not just a reassessment or reinvention or redesign. I think it's an unlearning, an undoing, an unraveling of who we've become that isn't serving the next chapter. Not that it wasn't useful, right? We got there for a reason, but we can't be that same version of ourselves and move forward. It won't let us. Our physical body won't let us. Our emotions won't let us. Our mindset, our beliefs. Then I had to dig deep and figure out what my truth is. And then the more I talked to women about their truth in midlife, it just kept growing. And then I hit the top 10 ranked in the world. And I was like, wow, okay, so this is a thing. People want to hear more of this type of stories. That's the birth of it.
That is so amazing. And when I look at you and I see the businesswoman that you are and that how I wanted to work with you, and it was at that time when I was about ready to take the plunge, but not sure if I was going to work another job, that you kind of took time off. So
Mhm.
I could respect what you were going through, but then for you to come back so strong, and I want to say powerful, but in a very feminine way and not an angry way. And we talked about this,
Yeah.
how it's easy to take our experience and think we've healed, but we still hold a lot of anger, and that doesn't serve us. I love that you have kind of said, I had to slow down because isn't it women in business, isn't it hustle, do? And it's really hard and it's exhausting to be an entrepreneur. And you're saying, nope, take a break.
Yeah. It's funny because the last month, I have actually 2 months, I have made this commitment to go for a walk every single day, every morning. So I've always, since the shut the mornings, I have stayed true to spending the first 2 hours with myself, whatever that looks like. And then recently, I have come to understand that I grew up near the ocean. I'm from an island, but my natural sort of calm, my natural space to be grounded is amongst the trees, not in front of the ocean. And what's interesting, Lori, is I had a woman do my chart and she said, wow, you're like triple Sagittarius, double fire sign, and all the things that have a lot of tornado and chaos. And I've always enjoyed action and movement. Like I'm a martial artist, right? Like I have all these things that is very action oriented. I've never, when people used to ask me, wow, how do you do it all? And I'm like, I don't, what I didn't know I should have answered then was I enjoyed it. I enjoy having a list of 100 things to do in a day. And I enjoyed it. It's just not what's going to serve me now. So I didn't know how to be not in that chaos, in that tornado, in that struggle, survival, challenge space. And that's when I realized when she said it, I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, I've been a forest fire most of my life. And she goes, and she asked me the most curious question. She goes, so how do you ground? Because I had very little air, no earth, like a sliver of earth, I guess. If these are the four elements, if you don't know what she's talking about, she was telling me that all humans have four elements to them: earth, water, wind, and earth, fire. Yeah, fire. She was, so how do you ground? And I was like, I think I married him. I think I married Earth. My husband, his chart has a lot of Earth in it. And she was like, oh, that makes sense. And then it hit me. I was like, that's why I love being in the forest because it's very earth. So I said that to her. I was like, you know, what's so curious is I love going on hikes. Even though I grew up on an island, we lived partially jungle in the trees and things like that. There's the ocean. I thought, oh my gosh. And she goes, oh, that makes so much sense. That's what it is. And so now I've adopted to that experience where I don't just sit at home and journal. I am actually with the trees and I just chat with the trees in the morning. I'm just chatting and I probably look like a crazy person as I'm going on a walk, just chatting with the trees like, okay, so what should I do about this? And what's so fascinating is every day I get in there and I'm just like, oh, I got to do this. I got to do that. What should I do that? And the trees answer me by being quiet, just by being still. And I realize I'm like, oh, do less and be more.
Wow.
I know, right? Just do less and be more.
So I have to ask you, because that's been my experience, layers and layers, but especially these last couple of years. I spend 2 to 3 hours in the morning. There's a great book called The Miracle Morning. I don't know if you've
Mm-hmm.
So I spend time as an entrepreneur. It's very difficult because it feels wasteful. But why do we resist this so much?
Oh my gosh. You're talking to the tornado. That I'm a recovering tornado. I think because from my experience, I've achieved a lot by doing. I've achieved an enormous amount in my life for what I wanted. And so I feel like, what does the other side look like? I don't know. I've always been afraid of boredom, of complacency, mediocre. That's been like my fears. Working with a forgiveness coach has allowed me to understand why I'm afraid of those, what I assume looks like rest. When I think rest, I think, oh gosh, here I am being lazy. Here I am being mediocre. That's my assumption, but that's not true. So forgiving myself for punishing myself to rest, that it doesn't equal laziness. That was a big aha moment when one of the conversations that really blew me away with my forgiveness coach is when she asked me what my fear with success was. And I said, oh, and you know how we all answer kind of like, I'm just going to tell her what she wants to hear. So I'm like, I'm afraid of failure. And she goes, I'm not buying it. And I was like, what? And she goes, why are you afraid of success? And I said, honestly, I couldn't tell you. And she hit me so hard with, you're not afraid of success because of failure. You're afraid of success because it'll be taken from you. success isn't the very thing you're afraid of. It's when you achieve it and it's taken from you. And she said, wonderful, it's not because you imagine someone taking it from you. You have had your business that you and your husband built with your hard-earned sweat, blood, and tears taken. So it's not a story, it's a truth that happened in your life. And so now every time you seek success, that inside of you, there's a story that says somebody will take it. So you'll gear up for it, you'll achieve it, you'll do all the things, and right as it gets to the cusp of it, you'll pull away, because better to have tried and not failed, but better to try to not get hurt. And when she said that, I did burst out in tears, because she verbalized the thing I couldn't verbalize, because that is true. I'm not afraid of big bank account. I'm not afraid of a tiny bank account. What I'm afraid of is working for something I love and having it ripped from me, from somebody I love, because that's what happened. That is part of my story. So
how do you overcome that? Like, now that you know that, what do you have to do to make yourself not go there?
that's the work. That's the work. I often have told her, I said, I feel like working with you is doing the honest work, because it's easy. Listen, I'm a natural, I think I was born an entrepreneur. And part of an entrepreneur's genetic makeup is storytelling. As a storyteller, when you're in front of therapists, or people who are in the healing world, you have a tendency to manipulate that story because you don't really want to tell the truth. Because God forbid you actually show up in your shame. That's a lot. That's what I've been working to cover for so many years. Why start now? But when she called me in like that, she calls it calling me in. I called it, she called me out. But when she called me in like that, I knew it. I can't lie. I can't, because she's not going to let me. So then I had to do the honest work and be like, okay, so where do we go from there? And she was like, make peace with the pain that it was ripped from you. And that's why when I'm talking to you today, when I heard your story, I thought, here's a woman who's gone through the deepest level of pain. Anything that's intimate and relational pain is the deepest pain. It's our deepest pain. My niece stole my business. It's painful, but not nearly as if my husband betrayed me, because I had given him all of me. And when I heard your story, I thought, but the Lori I know, she's kind, she's generous, she's giving. Based on the story I just heard, you are the opposite of what I would assume, because that causes bitterness, anger, vengefulness. We have slivers of that. And it really allowed me to see that if I maintain this inner story that everybody is just out to get me, then I'm fulfilling my own destiny of getting things ripped from me. So I got to let it go. And that's easier said than done. But really, I thought it was forgiving who stole from me. It's forgiving me. Like constantly forgiving myself. Because you know how when you're betrayed, you look back and you go, I kind of had a feeling. There were signs, but I ignored it. There's no way she would do that to me. There's all of these ways that you mask the truth because you don't want it to be real, because the pain of knowing somebody would hurt you like that intentionally is too great for our psyche and our emotions to withstand. So it wasn't forgiving her that healed me. It was forgiving myself, because I knew. Somewhere in me, I knew she was doing what she was doing. I just wasn't willing to accept it. That's what it took. Many tears, and then the gall of this forgiveness woman wouldn't walk me through it with her. She was just like, okay, now that we've had our time and you've cried, your turn to sit in it. Sit in it. And oh my gosh, I can only watch so much Netflix, but eventually I could read so many books. I could write so many journals, but eventually you have to just sit with the pain. And that's what did it. Hours and hours and days of sitting with the pain.
So many things come up. I think about people who self-medicate because of the pain, and that you made this hard choice to sit in it. And I was listening to a podcast I love called Crime Analyst with Laura Richards, and she's an advocate for domestic violence. And she was interviewing a survivor of Jeffrey Epstein. And
Mm,
this woman's hardest thing to overcome was her own, she called it stupidity. She could not
mm.
forgive herself for not understanding and knowing what was happening. And when you said that, I thought, as women, we seem to be so hard on ourselves. We expect perfection. Even if we don't expect it of others, there's something in us that says, I should have known, like if our
Yes.
child gets hurt or whatever, I should have. And there's all this self blame. And I love it that we're talking about this because for me to see you talking about this, because I saw you as, I mean, I'm looking up to you as the person in business, as an
Oh,
entrepreneur, and I still do. But I love you even more now that you've been
mm.
so vulnerable and you talk about this honest truth, because that I believe it's not business we get stuck in, it's our own story. And the fact that you have found a way to walk through this to me is an answer.
Yeah, and who being alone with yourself, it seems like, okay, first of all, it doesn't cost us anything. It doesn't, but what I realize now is I needed her to guide me through that process. Could I have done it on my own? Well, if I did, I would have done it 5 years ago when it happened. So I just needed her to guide me through understanding that the feelings I was feeling as a doer and as an achievement oriented person, I feel like, okay, I'm going to get through that, done, next. Well, it doesn't work that way. That feeling of grief is a back and forth wave. It's like you think you're over it and then something happens and it comes back. And so I wasn't prepared for those parts. I thought I was done the first time I went through the grief. Oh, by the fifth time, I'm like, when is this gonna end? Oh my God, how does it have to be so painful still? And you think it lessens. First three times you get through the grief, you're thinking, okay, now it'll be on a three instead of a five. Then it came back the fifth time on a 10. And I'm like, what is this? When it hit me really hard as I was getting to the end of it, she was like, this is a good place to be. This is a really good. And I remember thinking, wait, you're supposed to tell me, okay, it's getting worse. Like, what's your problem? What's your issue? Why can't you get over it? No, her response was, this is good. This is where you should be. And I'm like, but it hurts worse than when we first started working through it. And she's like, because it's like she likened it to that story of a jellyfish. In order for a jellyfish to push themselves at, like, they don't have fins. They don't, right? How does, and jellyfish is the oldest species in existence of living thing. And she goes, how do you think they've survived so long? And how do they move around the ocean? So when you study, not that you're going to go study jellyfish, but if you look at jellyfish, they have to push in to push out. They have to pull themselves in order to have that catalyst of being pushed out. And she's like, that's pain. Forgiveness is not just expressing it, but the very many ups and downs. But when you know you're at that peak of, I can let this go and surrender to it, which is everybody's suggestion. And it's so not easy. Just surrender. You obviously have not tried if you say it that easily. And she goes, and to surrender to it, you have to accept it. You have to fully suck it all in. And then that's the very thing that's going to push you out. And I was like, oh God, this sucks. This is so terrible. But it is true. You can't sever pain because it's part of life. Like, it happened. I can't just ignore that it happened, and I can't fabricate it or put a different spin on it or tell a different story. It was as painful as it was. It broke me into a million pieces. My heart was broken because she betrayed me. Those things are all real and true. But in order for it not to define me, I had to accept all parts of it and my part in it too. And I think that's a lot harder to accept than telling the story over and over again.
That's hard. But, I talk about that in my book about how when my husband left, I had become a coach. And all of a sudden I realized it wasn't his fault I wasn't doing the work. I was blaming him because it was easy because other things were hard. And so I had to own
Hmm.
my part in it. And
Yeah.
that's where the freedom comes. I feel like freedom is thrown around in a way like surrender, where it's not easy and it's not defined. And I don't think when we have to look a little deeper in our own lives to see what that really means.
Yeah.
And I love that you took the time to do the work to kind of stop. And the thing is I love the ocean, but the fact that you're a water girl, island girl, because I am too, you had to go to the trees that were silent. The ocean is not silent. The trees were silent.
Yeah.
That is so powerful because you weren't comfortable with it. And so you had to get
Yes.
comfortable
Yes.
with the uncomfortable.
Yeah. When the woman who shared my chart, she goes, I understand why you wouldn't do well by water. And I was like, why? And she goes, well, because water's job is to take out the fire. And you're naturally a fire. You have like three spots. I don't know. I was like super fire on the chart. And then she goes, and air makes the fire grow. And you're just not in that space in your life anymore, right? And she goes, so earth makes sense because it contains fire. I was like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. She goes, you do well in, you know, I mean, it's not like you can't be by water. It's not like you can't be by fire, but it's not a natural need to be around that because you're in the time of your life where you are connecting to your fire. You have to understand it. You have to be a part of it. It's no longer a thing that needs to rage and grow and consume what it's around. She's like, it's time to understand it, to shape it, to be a part of it, to connect with it. And I was like, oh God, that makes so much sense. That is so insanely amazing. But just because you have that information doesn't mean you know what to do with it. This is why I think guidance is so important. For instance, for you, the way that you guide people through building a podcast. Now, right now, as it stands, the way business is moving, I'm just gonna 360 the conversation really quick and go into business because I geek out over business. And we are in a modern world of business. We are coming out of, I know this sounds crazy, but just follow me here. The world of business is coming out of the industrial age and moving into the technology age. And it seems like, wonderful, are you kidding me? That's been happening for years. It isn't though, because think about the mindset of what the CEOs currently right now in big companies, how old are they? They are the younger version of the baby boomers, which is part of the industrial mindset. As they're coming out, they've shaped our generation and three generations below them to still understand the world of business in the industrial space of doing, where right now it's being reshaped by a lot of chaos because in order for transition to happen, something has to die. It's not a terrible thing, but it's a hard thing. And so we have to acclimate to this new way of business, which is technology deeply embedded in human intimate relationships. Because technology by itself can't exist. Like AI, great. And is it taking over the world? Possibly. But does it still need humans? 100%. Because we are made up, we're designed with emotions. We're designed for connection. We're designed to be in a collaborative space together. Technology can't survive without human interaction, and human interaction that isn't built on relationship with depth and with understanding of each other and compassion for each other isn't going to survive. So where the industrial age was survival of the fittest, right? Because it was about the accumulating the most and building something from nothing. The steel, I mean, I know this sounds insane, but steel was not discovered until after the war. I mean, Queen Elizabeth just passed away. She was inducted as queen during the Second World War. So it's not a big distance of time. It hasn't been 500 years since steel was invented. And that's what we're surrounded by now. And that's what we're coming out of. The world of business is shifting dramatically. in such a way where podcast is leading the way because people still need to connect to people. And television is there's we never know what fake news is, what real news is. We can't no longer read people's micro expressions to see if they're lying to us. What we want is kind of back to the traditional space of sitting by a radio and listening to people, which podcast has evolved into. We're looking for these sort of like long value assets of conversation where we can hear the depth of a human being based on their questions, their answers. And hello, that really changed the face of our government. I mean, so much of the voting was done through long conversations on podcasts. So I'm just saying, like, you are spearheading this idea of helping women, especially in midlife, get on and tell stories and connect to humans in a way that only a woman who's been in the world of radio since radio existed can do. There's a lot of people, I'll help you do a podcast. I get it. You started yours during COVID. Yay, high five, and you're doing really well. But wouldn't you rather be guided by someone who's been through it? Like, I don't know if I would have this much healing if the person who was guiding me through my healing hadn't experienced deeper pain than myself. Her pain is 10 times has depth over mine. So my pain could never, when I'd be like, oh, you don't know what I've been through. She would just lovingly look at me and she's like, but I do. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Do you see the full circle that just happened here? You talked about your healing and then you talked about business. It's all the same story, Wonderful. You're saying, be still, stop the hustle. It's like your story just blended into your business model.
Yeah, that is what is reshaping today's world of business. I just read a thing the other day about how a personal brand is currently the catalyst and the catapult to all businesses that's not big corporate. What is it? Fortune 500, Fortune 300, Fortune 100. If you're a small business, a solo business, like it's really, really vital to focus on creating a personal brand. But they're seeing it on a higher level where big companies, because the general trust amongst each other is lessening when it comes to leadership. In the world of leadership, we have less trust in them than we do influencers who came out of nowhere because they're telling their truth. Personal brand is so important even for neurosurgeons, industries that you wouldn't even think would matter. Dentistry, veterinarians, and they're even now encouraging CEOs of giant companies like, yeah, you can't sit behind the Wizard of Oz anymore. You have to get out and let us see you. I mean, if you think about it, I grew up in an era we loved the Wizard of Oz. Like Judy Garland no one could match that woman as Dorothy. And then Wicked came out, which is a completely different story being told from the exact same storyline. It already shows you how we are needing to see the world has to shift, but it has to start with us. Because who would have thought Glenda was not the cool one, right? The first time I saw Wicked as a play, I remember thinking, oh my God, what an interesting twist to tell the story I've loved for so long. I've been a huge Judy Garland fan forever. And then I was like, oh, I wonder how she would feel if she was still alive.
That's so interesting. And the thing that I've always loved about you is you are a storyteller and how you use stories and history to make a difference. And then here you're saying you were telling yourself a story, which is a huge part of coaching because we all do it. We all tell the story according to our perception. But when we look, like for instance, in my divorce, when I said, oh, look at the part it'd be easy for me to blame, but how do I own and tell a better story, a more honest story?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I just have to point out there was this one part of your story that I thought was so beautiful when you talked about the feminine aspect that you had sort of lost touch with, right? Because just being a woman, we think we're feminine because we're a woman. And then when you said that you were in a face at the time of sort of needing it, desperate support, desperate help. And the woman said, no, I'm not giving you money. I'm not giving, but I will pay for your nails. And I remember hearing the story going, oh, this is interesting. And then you followed it up with, you'd forgotten because of the divorce, just the pain of the heartbreak. And I thought, oh my God, what a beautiful way to support somebody that you didn't know you were supporting them in the deepest core of who they are as a human being. Because although you even said, here I am sweeping the ground at a campsite with beautiful nails. But there was a story to be told from that of like, we forget the essence of our truth because survival doesn't allow us to see past our survival. That's why my lesson in this midlife of unraveling is to be still, which has not been easy because I like doing. My 30-year-old daughter woke up the other day. She's like, oh my gosh, Mom, it's 10 o'clock. I can't believe I've wasted the day. And I'm like, no, you haven't. And she's like, oh, I should have been up at 7. I could have already done all the things today. It's 10 o'clock. It's going to get me an hour to be, I won't be out of the house till noon. And I just feel like I've wasted the day. And the desperation in her voice of her use of the word waste, I was like, oh my gosh, I think I taught her that.
But now
Great.
you're here to reflect back in a different way,
Yes.
which is beautiful.
Yes. Well, then, I have to sit there and forgive myself and
Right.
find a way to connect to my daughter and say, I'll give you that till you're about 40. Then we're going to have a sit down and be like, hustle isn't the game. It's okay for now. It's okay for now, but it's an unsustainable way of existence.
That is so beautiful. Well, we're out of time, but wonderful. Thank you so much. I respect your story so much. And before we go, I want two things. I want you to tell people how to find you.
Oh, I don't know. No, just kidding.
Yeah, I know, right? It's all different. Your podcast.
Yes, yes, yes. So you can find Her Truth Revealed on all of the platforms that you can listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple, all the places. And then we have a YouTube channel as well, Her Truth Revealed. And then I'm also on Instagram as under my name, Wonderful Morrison. And you can find me on all the social media except for TikTok and X because it's just a lot.
Watch her YouTube and subscribe. Go listen to the podcast. Give a 5-star rating and give a review because that helps us. And if we don't ask, people won't do it. And it's so simple. It takes less than a minute to do that and to help the people that we are getting so much value from. So before we go, what is it that you really, really want us to know?
Oh my gosh, that's a big. Every experience you have is meant for you in growth, good and bad, all of it. It's meant for growth. So don't resist the growth. Flow with it. Harder than it sounds, but you can do it. I believe in you.
I love it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
If you love this podcast, here's a big ask. Will you share with your friends and family, subscribe, give us a review, and a 5-star rating so that others looking to reinvent their lives will be able to get the help they're looking for? Thank you in advance.